Welcome, fellow travelers. This is Cosmic Wanderers, a space where we explore the universe within and beyond.
Here, we'll navigate the mysteries of existence, uncover ancient wisdom, and dive into stories that spark wonder and connection. I'm Nova, but everyone knows me as No-No. I will be your guide on this journey through the cosmos of thought, imagination, and possibility. All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're cracking open a book that's all about understanding those hidden forces that shape us. I'm talking about symbols.
Symbols, yes.
And for this deep dive, we're going straight to the source. Carl Jung's Man and His Symbols.
This book is really a classic for a reason. You know, Jung starts off with this case. A woman, she can't even leave her house. Crippling anxiety.
Wow.
And it all comes down to this recurring dream she's had.
Okay, what kind of dream?
Keeps seeing this like shadowy figure trying to break in.
Oh, classic nightmare material. But why was this dream so important?
Well, you see, working with Jung, she dug a little deeper, and it turns out the figure, it wasn't a real intruder. It was a symbol of her own ambition, something she'd been pushing down for years.
So the dream wasn't literal, it was pointing to something deeper going on inside her.
Exactly. Hey, have this. Once she recognized that, embraced her ambitions, the anxiety, gone. Nightmares, poof, vanished.
That's incredible. Just goes to show you the power these symbols have, right? How they can impact us without us even realizing it.
Absolutely. And this ties directly into Jung's idea of the collective unconscious, this deeper layer of the mind that we all share.
Okay, hold on. Collective unconscious. You're saying we're all connected somehow on a deeper level.
It's not just about our individual experiences. Jung believed there's this wellspring of universal symbols, patterns, instincts we all tap into.
And this is where those classic archetypes come from. The hero, the mentor, the shadow, all that.
Exactly. And they don't just show up in dreams.
So when we see a movie like Star Wars, we're connecting with those same archetypes even though it's set in a galaxy far, far away.
Precisely. Jung would say those stories resonate because they're tapping into those primal universal themes. The hero facing trials, battling darkness, seeking transformation. It's a story told for millennia.
Doesn't that kind of reduce everything to a simple formula?
Not at all. It's more like a framework, not a rigid blueprint. Think of those universal experiences, like facing fear, searching for meaning, good versus evil. These themes show up across cultures, across time.
I can see that. So those archetypes are like the common language we all understand. But if they're so universal, why are symbols often so hard to decipher?
Well, think of it this way. Symbols are the language of the unconscious. And that part of us, it speaks in a different way than our conscious mind.
Makes sense. Dreams are like that, they're full of symbolic language that can feel totally cryptic.
Exactly. It's like trying to understand a dream in a foreign language.
So how do we start to even make sense of those dream symbols? Is there a cheat sheet somewhere?
Jung suggests first, pay attention to your gut feeling, the emotion a symbol evokes in you. That's often the key to what it means for you personally.
So a snake in a dream might mean something different from you than it does for you based on our own associations with snakes.
Precisely. That's why dream journals are so useful. Track your dreams, the images, the emotions, and over time, you start to see patterns emerge. You start to see those recurring symbols and how they relate to your life.
Now, Yum also talked about dreams sometimes showing glimpses of the future. That seems a little out there, doesn't that? Like fortune telling.
It's definitely one of his more controversial ideas, but he wasn't talking about predicting specific events, like winning lottery numbers. It was more about sensing possibilities.
So picking up on anxieties or subtle patterns that our conscious mind hasn't fully grasped yet. Exactly.
Like a patient of his, he dreamt of a landslide burying this village. Later, he found out a distant relative, someone he'd been subconsciously worried about, died in a mining accident. It wasn't literal, but it captured that underlying fear.
Wow, that's chilling. But it makes you wonder, how much is our unconscious picking up on that we're completely oblivious to?
It's a fascinating question, right? And it gets to Jung's point that the unconscious, if not just a dumping ground for repressed memories, it's a source of creativity, intuition, even a connection to something bigger than ourselves.
We're getting into some pretty deep waters here. Okay, before we go any further, let's talk more about those archetypes. They touched on the hero, but what about this shadow archetype? It sounds ominous.
Ooh, the shadow. It's one of the most interesting and maybe the most challenging. It represents those parts of ourselves we deem unacceptable, the dark side, the stuff we try to repress.
So those negative traits we see in others, but don't want to admit we have too.
Exactly. And Jung was adamant that facing that shadow, integrating it, was crucial for growth.
That how do you even begin to confront those parts of yourself you've spent so much energy hiding?
Dreams could be surprisingly helpful here. They often use symbols to point out those shadow aspects we're trying to ignore. Jung had a patient. He dreamt of being chased by this terrifying monster.
Another nightmare here. But through analysis, it turned out the monster wasn't some external threat. It was his own repressed rage and aggression. So the dream was forcing him to confront those feelings he'd been pushing down.
Precisely. And by acknowledging those shadow aspects, he could then find healthier ways to deal with those emotions.
This makes me think about those times you just clash with someone constantly. Could that be a sign you're projecting your shadow onto them? It's
definitely possible. Jung believed we often project those qualities we dislike in ourselves onto others. And that, of course, leads to conflict. So next time you find yourself super irritated by someone, ask yourself, what's triggering me here? Could this be a reflection of something I don't want to see in myself?
like a powerful question to ask. It makes you realize that this isn't just about dreams. It's about understanding ourselves, our relationships better.
Absolutely. It's about realizing we all have light and shadow inside us. And integrating the shadow isn't condoning bad behavior. It's about understanding it, finding healthier ways to express those energies.
So we've got the collective unconscious, archetypes like the hero and the shadow, and dreams as a window into all that. But Jung also talks about symbols being everywhere in our daily lives, right?
Absolutely. Man and his symbols goes beyond just our inner world. Jung argues that symbols are woven into everything, from art and religion to advertising, even the design of our cities. They shape how we see the world.
So it's not just those profound symbols that show up in dreams, but also those everyday symbols, the ones we barely even notice.
Exactly. Take something as simple as a heart symbol. It instantly means love across cultures.
Or the color red, right? Passion, danger, warning.
Exactly. Those symbols, whether consciously designed or unconsciously absorbed, they're constantly shaping our understanding.
So like even how a city is laid out, how a building is designed, that could be considered symbolic.
Absolutely. Think of the soaring arches of a cathedral, meant to inspire awe, or the sleek design of a modern office, suggesting efficiency.
It's kind of mind-blowing how these symbols are subtly influencing us all the time. So how do we become more aware of this symbolic language all around us?
Start by just paying attention. Look at logos, colors in advertising, architectural styles, and ask yourself, what feelings or ideas do they evoke? What message are they sending?
So it's like becoming a symbol detective, looking for those hidden messages everywhere. Exactly.
And the more you practice, the more you start to see the world in a whole new way. You recognize the power symbols have over our thoughts, emotions, even our actions.
This is all incredibly intriguing, but we've only scratched the surface of man and his symbols, haven't we?
Oh, absolutely. Jung's work is so rich and complex. But hopefully this gives you a taste of how powerful these symbols are and sparks your curiosity to explore even further.
We've been talking about how symbols are all around us. But what happens when life throws us a curveball? Those tough times, you know? Can symbols help us through those too?
Jung believed they absolutely could, especially during times of crisis or loss. He saw symbols as, like, guideposts, helping us find meaning in the chaos.
So it's not just about understanding those everyday symbols or the ones in our dreams. They can actually help us heal and move forward.
Think of it this way. When we're in a crisis, our usual ways of coping, they might not work anymore, right? Symbols, especially those that pop up in dreams or art, they can offer a new perspective, you know?
Jung's colleague, Jalan Jacobi, she used this fascinating analogy. She compared psychological transformation to alchemy.
Alchemy, turning lead into gold.
Yeah, not literally, of course.
Of course. But the process itself is interesting. You take something base, something heavy, and through a series of steps, you refine it. You uncover its hidden potential.
So those difficult experiences, the lead, if you will, they can be transformed into something valuable.
Exactly. And symbols are key in that process. Think about the phoenix rising from the ashes. That image has been around forever across culture.
It really is.
It represents this idea that even from destruction, something new can emerge.
It's such a powerful image of resilience, of rebirth. Does man and his symbols have any specific examples of this?
There's this one case Jung describes, a woman grieving the loss of her child. She kept dreaming about this barren field, and suddenly it was bursting into bloom.
Wow.
It was a symbol of hope for her, a reminder that even in her grief, life would go on beauty could return.
That's really moving. It shows how these symbols can offer comfort during dark times. But how do we know which symbols to pay attention to? Are there any guidelines for working with them, like therapeutically?
Jung always emphasized that symbols are very personal. What resonates for one person might mean nothing to another. The key is to pay attention to those symbols that really hit you on an emotional level.
So there's no universal symbol dictionary? Nope.
It's about exploring your own inner world. That's why Jung was such a big advocate for dream journaling. Not just writing down the images, but the feelings that went with them. Over time, you start to see patterns,
So if I keep dreaming about being lost in a forest, it might not mean the same thing for me as it does for you.
Exactly. For you, it might represent feeling overwhelmed, lost in the complexities of life. But for someone else, it could mean a desire for solitude, to reconnect with nature. The meaning comes from your personal associations and feelings.
It reminds you something we talked about earlier, how symbols aren't just personal, they also shape our collective experience. That dives into that too, right?
Absolutely. Aniela Jaffe, one of Jung's colleagues, she wrote about how symbols are woven into the fabric of our culture, our daily lives. She argued that they're not just decoration. They actively shape how we see things, how we behave.
So we're not just talking about dream symbols or those that come up during personal crises. We're talking about symbols that are all around us all the time.
Think about how we use colors to communicate emotions. Like red, it's often linked with passion, danger, warning.
Right. It's not just a random association.
Exactly. It's built up over time, across cultures. Or how brands use logos and imagery to make you feel a certain way about their product.
That's true.
Those logos, they're designed to tap into our shared understanding of symbols, like a company using a lion to show strength, or a dove for peace.
It's amazing how these symbols are always working on us, even if we don't realize it.
It goes beyond marketing, Jaffe also talks about the role of symbols in art and religion.
Right, art often uses symbols to explore universal themes, and religion uses them to represent those core beliefs and values.
Like the cross in Christianity, it's not just a random shape. It holds a lot of meaning about sacrifice, redemption, that connection between humanity and the divine.
Or the hero's journey. We see that everywhere in myths, books, movies. It speaks to something fundamental about us, wanting to overcome challenges, achieve something greater.
Exactly. Those symbols, they don't just reflect our beliefs, they actually shape them. They influence how we see the world, our place in it.
It makes you think about even the simplest symbols we encounter every day, like a stop sign or a traffic light.
Absolutely. They have clear meanings that help us navigate safely, and it all relies on everyone understanding what those symbols mean.
It's incredible how our world is built on this complex web of symbols, from the mundane to the profound, like you said. But if we're constantly bombarded with symbols, how do we keep from being overwhelmed or, manipulated by them?
That's where developing what Jung called symbolic awareness comes in. It's not about rejecting symbols, it's about understanding their power and engaging with them consciously.
So how do we start cultivating that awareness?
It starts with simply paying attention. Notice the symbols that catch your eye, whether it's in dreams, art, nature, anywhere. Don't just brush them off as at random. Think about what they might be trying to tell you.
So it's like learning a new language, the language of symbol.
Exactly. And as you become more aware of the symbols around you, you'll start to see the world in a whole new light. You'll see those deeper meanings, those hidden connections that tie us all together.
This has been a fascinating look at how symbols work on a personal and collective level. But I'm still curious about the symbols that come from our unconscious, especially in dreams. How do we know if a symbol is specific to our own life, or if it's tapping into something more universal, like Jung's archetypes?
That's a key question. And this is where Jung's idea of the collective unconscious comes in. Remember, he believed that beneath our personal experiences, there's this deeper layer we all share, a source of universal symbols and patterns.
So those archetypes, like the hero, the shadow, the wise old man, those are expressions of this collective unconscious.
Exactly. They represent those core human experiences and motivations that connect us, regardless of culture or time period. And they often pop up in our dreams, dressed up in that symbolic language of the unconscious.
Okay, so how do we tell those archetypal symbols apart from those that are more specific to our individual lives?
It takes discernment. You advise paying attention to the emotional resonance of a symbol. Does it feel like it goes beyond your own personal experience, something that feels primal, universal?
So if I dream about a snake and it triggers a really intense fear or maybe a fascination, That could mean it's tapping into something deeper than just my own experience with snakes.
That's a great example. Snakes, they often show up in dreams as symbols of transformation, healing, hidden knowledge. Their meaning is layered, often drawing from both personal associations and those deeper archetypal layers.
But how do we avoid reading too much into things? Or projecting our own ideas onto their symbols?
That's where dream journaling and reflection come in. Write down your dreams, the images, but also how they made you feel. Look for patterns, and don't be afraid to do some research. Look at the cultural and historical significance of those symbols.
It's like being a detective, trying to piece together the puzzle of our own inner world.
Exactly, and there's no single right answer, remember that. The meaning of a symbol will always be unique to the person and their situation. Approach those symbols with an open mind, curiosity, all willingness to explore those deeper layers of meaning.
This has been an incredible journey into the world of symbols. We've seen how they work in our personal lives, in our shared experiences, and even in that mysterious realm of the unconscious.
And we've just scratched the surface. Man and his symbols is packed with insights. There's always more to discover. But hopefully we've piqued your interest in this hidden language of symbols and how it can shed light on who we are and the world around us.
So we've talked about how symbols shape our world, how they show up in our dreams, even how they help us through tough times. But one thing I keep thinking about is Yu's idea that dreams can sometimes give us a glimpse of the future. This immortal impact there.
You feel on one of the most fascinating and definitely most debated parts of Jung's work. He argued that dreams aren't just about rehashing the past or reflecting what's happening now. They can actually point towards what might be.
But wait, isn't that veering into fortune-telling territory? How did Jung, with his scientific background, make sense of that?
He always emphasized that it wasn't about predicting specific events. It's more about picking up on patterns, possibilities, things our conscious mind might be missing. He saw the unconscious as this vast network, connected not just to our own experiences, but to a wider field of information and energy. So it's like
our dreams are capping into this broader awareness, sensing subtle shifts that we're not consciously registering.
Imagine you're on a mountaintop. Your conscious mind is focused on what's right in front of you. But the unconscious, it's like having a 360-degree view, taking in the whole panorama. It can even sense changes in the weather before they're obvious.
So those seemingly random dream images could be our unconscious trying to alert us to something on the horizon. A change coming up, an opportunity, maybe even a challenge we need to be ready for.
There's a case in Man and the Symbols where a patient kept having this recurring dream about a tidal wave sweeping her away. It filled her with dread, but she couldn't figure out why. A few weeks later, her company restructured. She lost her job. The dream didn't literally predict it, but it captured that underlying anxiety about her situation.
It's amazing how those dream images can be metaphors, tapping into our deepest fears, or maybe our intuitions. But if we accept that dreams can give us few glimpses of the future, does that mean we don't really have free will? If it's all predetermined, what's the point of making choices?
It's a big question, right? Yeah, one that philosophers have been wrestling with forever. Jung believed that even if our dreams do offer glimpses of potential futures, we always have the power to choose how we react. He saw dreams as more like invitations to awareness, not set-in-stone predictions.
So it's like our dreams are presenting us with options, but we still get to decide which path to take, exactly.
A dream might show us a potential obstacle, but we have the power to choose how we approach it. We can ignore the warning and walk right into it, or we can use that knowledge to prepare ourselves and make different choices.
So it all comes back to integrating the conscious and unconscious, using those symbolic messages from our dreams to make better decisions in our waking lives. It's about being active participants in creating our lives, not just passive observers.
I love that. And I think that's a core message in Man and His Symbols. We have this incredible resource inside us, this wellspring of wisdom and guidance. But it's up to us to pay attention to those whispers, those symbols, and bring them into our conscious awareness.
So we've gone deep into the meaning of symbols, how they show up in our personal lives, in our collected experience, and even in those fascinating realms of the unconscious. But I'm curious about the practical side of things. How can we actually use this knowledge about symbols to improve our lives?
It's a journey, a lifelong one, and it's going to look different for everyone. But here are a few key takeaways you can start using right now.
Okay, lay it on me.
First, cultivate that symbolic awareness. Pay attention to the symbols that catch your eye, whether in dreams, art, nature, everyday life. Don't dismiss them as random or meaningless. Take a moment to think about what they might be trying to tell you.
So we're developing a new kind of literacy, learning to read the language of symbols.
Exactly. And second, embrace journaling. Keep a dream journal. Don't just write down the images, write down how they made you feel. Write about symbols that resonate with you. Really explore what they mean to you.
It's like we're having a conversation with those symbols, letting them speak to us on a deeper level.
Precisely. And third, don't hesitate to ask for help. If you're struggling to understand a symbol or how it relates to your life, talk to a therapist, a counselor, someone who specializes in dream work or Jungian psychology.
It's like having a translator to help navigate those complex layers of meaning. Exactly.
This is a journey of self-discovery, a process of uncovering those hidden parts of yourself. It's about being open to the mystery, allowing those symbols to guide you towards a deeper understanding of who you are and your place in the world.
This deep dive into man and his symbols has been truly eye-opening. It's made me realize how much I've been taking those symbolic messages for granted, not just in my dreams, but in every aspect of my life.
And the amazing thing is, this is just the beginning. The more you engage with symbols, the richer and more meaningful your life becomes. It's about opening yourself up to those deeper layers of meaning, those whispers from within. They are always guiding us toward wholeness and understanding.
That's a powerful message to end on. Thank you so much for sharing your insights, for guiding us through this exploration of Jung's work. I have a feeling our listeners are going to see the world in a whole new way after this.
It's been my pleasure. And remember, the journey doesn't stop here. Keep exploring, keep questioning, keep listening to those whispers from within. The world of symbols is vast and endlessly fascinating.
On that note, we'll wrap up our deep dive into man and his symbols. We hope you've enjoyed the journey and that it sparked your own curiosity about the language of the unconscious. Until next time, keep exploring and keep those dream journals close by.
Thank you for joining us on this journey, fellow wanderers. As we drift back to our corners of the universe, remember this: the stars above aren't just lights in the sky. They're reminders that even in the vastness of the cosmos, we're all connected.
If you've enjoyed today's exploration, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a fellow traveler. Together, we can keep the spirit of wonder alive. Until next time, keep looking up, stay curious, and never stop wandering. This is Nono, signing off from Cosmic Wanderers.